Uh, Welcome to West Virginia Uncommonplace. Today, this is one of my adult theme episodes. I need children to go to bed. I need adults to get your good listening ears on. We're going to have a little fun today. My guest is Elizabeth Emmerson. She hails from a great place in the South, and she has a story to tell. So please, Elizabeth, tell us about yourself and tell us why you're here today.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Emerson, and I decided to have a personal quarantine project to write a story. I've always loved the Wild Wild West, and I did a Google search and found out that this woman wrote a smut story, an erotic story about lesbians, and she made millions of dollars in a very short time. And I thought, that's it. Sex sells. I'm going to write a dirty story and I'm going to see what happens. So this is my quarantine project. I wrote my very first ebook.
All right. So, in liking this subject, what made you want to write about this time period?
I've always loved Doc Holliday and the Wild Wild West. I always knew that he did have a common law wife that everyone called Big Nose Kate. And when I did some research on her, I found out that her story's never been told. She always wanted to sell her story, but she was never offered enough money in her own mind, to sell it. So I just thought, man, what a great story.
Okay, so basically, you didn't have to come up with too much ideal for this character because it was an already a person that existed.
Yes,
So,
yes.
so how do you do your research on something like this? Like, how do you decide what parts of
Well,
the story?
I started with writing facts. I get little handwritten notebooks out and I start handwriting facts like when she's born, when she dies, her true love, Doc Holliday, when's he born, when he dies. And I go through and get all my dates and cities and where they're at. And then I went back and collaborated different stories. Like she actually burns a building down in town to free Doc Holliday from jail. She burns a building to start a distraction, and then she goes to the jail with two guns and breaks him out of the jail because the town's going to hang him. So
Oh, wow.
she's full of spit and fire. She was a prostitute, but they didn't call it a prostitute back then. They called it a sporting woman. And she lived in the time where you could either work doing laundry, washing clothes and things for $25 a month, or you could work in a saloon having sexual relations with men for $50 a night. So,
So she picked the oldest profession.
and
Oh,
she took the Wild West by the horns. She was full of spit and vinegar.
okay, so when you develop these, in my audience, I'm explaining to you that this book is an erotica. There's other names that you can use, but it is erotica.
Yes,
When you develop an
yes.
erotica book, like where do you get the? I mean, even though this is it's not a PG show, but where do you get the inspiration to write that erotica? And I'll make it a little bit tighter, so it'll be a tight question for you. Um, Obviously, the interaction between a man and a woman, that's something that's easily you can make that vivid and very descriptive. But how do you like take the place in time? Like, do you focus on like the props or just what the Wild West would look like, what that room would look like? Is that what you focus on, or do you just focus on the interaction?
Well, you have to, if you're going to write erotic, especially for Amazon, which is where I publish mine, if you're going to write erotica, you have to follow certain rules. There can't be any rape, there can't be any incest. There's all these things that you cannot have. So, I didn't want to make it to where I wanted her first experience to be had to be consensual in order to be in the story. So I just took it one baby step at a time, and it shows how she kind of eased herself into prostitution in the story.
Okay. Makes sense. Now, the further you get into this book, because this is a COVID-19 project, because you have some free time to do this, right?
Yes,
Um,
sir.
when you're writing a story, did you ever hit a writer's block? Did it get to a point where, because that's a lot of emotion, that I wonder if that I don't, I want to know like the psychology on this. That's what's really important about this interview. Does that, like, the what you put into that, does that take away from your outside life?
No, it didn't take away from my outside life. I really enjoyed writing it. It didn't take me very long to write it. It took me about a month and a half of writing notes. I watched some Western series on TV so that
Okay.
I could imagine in my mind like the bar scenes, the saloon
Well,
scene, and could incorporate some of that into that. Some of the slang that they would use. Um, a lot of people talk to me about the movie Tombstone, which I don't know if you've ever
yes,
seen
I have seen
Tombstone.
that.
Okay. Uh, and I did not base any of this story off of things that I saw in Tombstone, but when I think about Doc Holliday in my mind, it's absolutely Val Kilmer.
Okay, I can see that. And for the
Yeah,
audience, Val Kilmer, to the younger audience, he would have been a Batman at one point. And what would really get you is he's the rival in Top Gun.
right.
That's just for the younger audience, so they'll know who he is. Val Kilmer was the Doc Holliday. So I'm glad to hear that the movie didn't play a role in this, because the movie's awesome. It's great. It's something. It's cinema, but that's just
Right,
what it is. It's cinema.
right.
Um, so you write this book. How do you pass this book along to someone to review it or to critique it for you? How do you do that? Like, it's
Anonymously, because my family does not know that I wrote this story. And
okay,
my grandmother figure is an avid reader and lives a block away from me. And at no point in my life do I ever want her to read this story. However, my cousin absolutely loves it, but she knows not to let my grandmother see it. So marketing it is a trick because I can't just, put it right on a Facebook page. Hey, look what I did, because I don't want to embarrass my family with my
okay. And we
dirty
won't
little
we won't
story.
consider it an embarrassment. We'll just say erotica. You have to be open to that nature,
Right.
and we'll say in this interview, and I will say this once again to anyone. I am always open to hear about anything anybody has to say, and it's always awesome that someone would take the time to write this. Um, everything is a piece of art.
Right.
All right. So inside this book, can you give the audience a little bit of about this character? Let them know, like, just a bit of what she endured dealing with Doc Holliday, because he was a little trifling. If you're going to base off the Tombstone movie, he was a little trifling.
Yes, he was a killer. The book goes into detail about the shootout at the OK Corral.
Okay.
Uh, uh, Kate was the only witness. She could see the shootout from her dressing room window. So she ended up going to court and testifying on behalf of Doc Holliday and Wyatt Earp.
Okay.
Now, Wyatt Earp and Big Nose Kate did not really get along. Wyatt Earp was Doc Holliday's very dear friend, and it very well may have been Kate that introduced the two of them to each other. But Kate didn't care for Wyatt, and Wyatt didn't care for Kate.
All right. So
So,
that made for a crazy dynamic there, I guess, right?
yes,
A lot of
yes,
tension. You couldn't cut that steak.
yes, right.
Okay. Now, after you tell that little development there about Kate, um, were there any points when you were writing this that you could relate to Kate? And when I'm asking, I'm talking about the character. We're not talking about the physical portion, but I'm like, is there portions of the character that you could relate to?
Absolutely. I used to work in a bar about 30 years ago, and in the bar scene where everybody's drinking and everybody's throwing money around, you're either loud in the center of attention and making great tips, or you're quiet and nobody's really paying any attention. So I think she was real loud and boisterous, and I feel that I'm loud and boisterous. So yeah, I think we have a lot of similar qualities. Only I was not a prostitute. I just worked in a regular bar.
Right, but
Okay.
you could there was a correlation of those of the
Yes.
loudness. Okay, now inside writing this, did you put any of yourself in this?
Um, I not really. I tried to channel her as best as I could.
Okay,
I just tried to look at it from her perspective and keep it within the rules of Amazon for having an erotic story. Because if you break the rule, then they put you on the bottom of a stack somewhere. So, and back in the on the Wild West frontier days, you couldn't rape a prostitute because she was already a soiled dove. And
okay,
a man would get in more trouble for beating a dog than he would a prostitute. So women didn't have a lot of rights. And the
okay,
fact that she was a 16-year-old girl that worked in a saloon in the wild, wild west, and then went on to become the wife of Doc Holliday, which he was a dental surgeon. And she owned her own saloons. She owned her own parlor houses. I mean, she really, but then she probably ended up losing it all in the end because she was a heavy drinker. She ended up in a nursing home alone in the end, so she wasn't so
but
wealthy when she died.
in a twist, because we always try to find good in different things. She was kind of like an entrepreneur to a degree, owning things,
Oh, absolutely.
no matter the context of how she got it, owning
Right,
things, and not saying I'm not going to even say that it empowered anything. I'm just going to say owning things, and in that time, it was probably not very perceived very well or handled that well for a woman to
right,
have these type of things.
right.
And
And she ended up in a state government nursing home at the end. And towards the end of her life, she was fighting for the rights of people who were bound to those kind of state hospitals. So she was a feisty go-getter all the way to the end.
all right, so she was an advocate for people that were stuck in these state ran facilities, right?
Yes.
So it seems like there was a good portion, or at the end of her life, a good portion where she just did right, and right probably came out later on after she died. Um, the middle of her life, that profession probably preceded her more than anything, but that's good to hear. So let me ask you this, Elizabeth, the next thing that you write, because you just don't write one book. What's going to be your next
Right.
interest?
I'm gonna be a one-hit wonder with this smut story. It's like an experiment. I want to see how well it does. I really, my, I'm working on a true crime right now, so it'll have to be under a different name and absolutely not related to this smut in any way, shape, or form, because I don't want the true crime to be disdignified by this story. So,
Okay, so but you do have something else going on. That's the key thing there. You know, uh,
yes,
uh,
always.
right? Because it's something like and I always ask authors this because you have to understand when people listen to this, they listen for the content of what your book is, but you're an author now.
Yes.
Um, so I asked this when you were writing this story. Was any part of the story self care for yourself?
Uh, I enjoyed writing it. I enjoyed researching it. I enjoyed writing it. After I wrote it, I read it over 4 or 5 times without any break. I laughed at it because some of it's pretty entertaining,
Okay,
and all falling within the all the rules of Amazon.
yeah,
And for erotic, they say they want 10,000 words, which makes it a short story,
okay,
because the people that seek erotic want to read that for like an hour and a half and then, be done.
right.
So, and, and it, it's historically correct, which makes it entertaining. And it's historically correct, which makes it entertaining. So it's not like you're even wasting your brain on a bunch of fake stuff. I mean, everything that happens in that story absolutely could have happened.
Okay, so here I'm gonna put you in the box. It's our 2020
Okay,
moment. I'm gonna be Diane Sawyer, Barbara Walters, no John Stossel, because there's nothing gonna be funny about what I'm gonna ask next. Because you know John
okay,
Stossel is the funny guy. Um,
okay.
so to the next person that wants to write erotica, what do you tell them? How do you tell them to get started? Like, when do you find time to do this so nobody knows?
Right. Everybody has a different writing style. Another writer friend of mine, he makes list of characters and he gives each character he knows their favorite color, their whole background, and I don't write that way. So I'm not exactly sure how to advise another writer.
Okay.
The way I do it is it's in a little notebook, and then I go from one small notebook to a bigger notebook. And then when I get to my computer, so that I don't repeat myself, when I take it out of my handwritten notes and type it in the computer, I go through it with a yellow Sharpie, and then I read my story. And sometimes I switch my paragraphs around until I fit it all together like a puzzle. So uh, I don't know how to advise other writers because I only know how I write, and I know that I don't think anybody writes like I do.
Okay.
uh, I think I'm a loner, as I write way backwards.
Okay.
Sometimes I write the end first and then flip
Work your way back
around.
from there.
Sometimes, yes, sir.
All right, so and here's the next hard hitting question because this
Okay.
is this we both have agreed that this is done under a pen name. That's fine.
Yes. Yes.
What happens if you're ever exposed?
I I don't know. It's just that I have grandchildren,
Oh well,
and
remember, don't give too much personal detail, but
I don't know.
you have a
Uh,
contingency plan though, right? Or you're working on
yeah.
one as we speak.
Uh, yeah. Okay. No, I don't. I would apologize in advance and go, hey, it's adult content, so maybe you shouldn't have read that if you're not an adult. I would hold it well. I'd hold it
Okay.
well, but I would like to keep it under the rug if I can.
Okay.
And
All right. So,
I don't want to do any paperbacks because I don't want to kill any more trees. This is my very first ebook published, and I've had a lot of people say to me, "Oh, I would buy that in a paperback if you could just, do that." And I'm just to the point where we're supposed to be going earth friendly. So this is the most earth friendliest smut thing I can do.
I like that
That's
one.
all I can do. Yeah. I just want
Uh,
to go earth friendly and see how wide it goes.
all right. So now it's on to the Barbara Walters question because those were
Okay,
just
go ahead.
lead. Diane Sawyer does those softer questions.
Okay.
Okay. I'm a person on Amazon right now. I'm scrolling down looking at Wild West erotica.
Yes.
I see your book. I see another book. Okay.
Uh-huh.
What is the selling point that's going to make your book better than the other book that I'm looking at?
Just from the cover or from the little information box that they give you?
Information box, anything. You're supposed to tell me right now what's going to make your book the selling point.
I think the cover is eye-catching once you figure out what it is. Like at first
Okay.
you can't really tell, and then you look and you're like, "Oh, I know what that is." And I think the little box, because when it describes my book, the last sentence in that description is Big Nose Kate goes down in history literally. So,
So right there, yeah,
uh,
that's
yeah,
enticing. That's erotic.
it's, it's the name of the story. I don't know if we've said this yet, is Doc Holliday curled my toes.
We did not say that.
So I wanted it apparent from the beginning, if you look at that title, that you know you're getting into some smut. I didn't want anybody to be fooled.
Okay. Now,
Okay.
here's the big thing. On the show, I don't know if you listen or not. Um, we plug your book. We have to do a little commercial for it. And what I'm saying
Okay.
is your book Give the title one more time, because see, I have people that skip through the podcast in different portions, so we'll plug it two or three more times. The name of your book, and it's on Amazon just right now, right?
Yes. Doc Holliday Curled My Toes
Okay, and it's on Amazon.
by Elizabeth Amazon. Yes.
Okay, now, since all this is relatively new in the sense of you getting everything going, I guess at some point you'll have to have some type of communication. So, are you planning on setting up
Yeah.
a email or something, or even a not necessarily a Facebook page, but
I
something?
do I do have an email address that people, if they want to,
Comment
reach
or
out to
ask?
me, can. Yes.
Are
It's
you allowed? Are you allowed to
Emerson.
state that?
Yeah, I think that's fine. Don't you think?
Yeah.
An email address is safe, right?
Yes.
Okay. It's Emerson History Nut at yahoo.com.
Okay, and plug that one more time for him.
Emerson History Nut at yahoo.com.
Okay. All right, so that works out there. So that's how you can reach her. That's one of the key things that we like to do,
Yes.
because it's all about the advertisement. I always tell everybody, it takes a lot of brass to come on to a podcast. Because the way that we have to do podcasts now, we're not meeting in person. We're not at the 76 gas station in Akron, Ohio, or wherever I venture in Ohio, because that's my stopping ground, even though I live in West Virginia. Um, we do these interviews, phone calls, whatever. So, was there was there at any point like any type of I don't know, anxiety of actually putting it out there, putting your book out there, or did you decide that a podcast would be the proper way to do this so you can stay anonymized?
That's exactly right. A podcast is the perfect place for me to do this so that I can promote it without having my face on it, without my neighbors trying to look over in my yard like that's that girl that wrote that dirty story.
Okay, I got you
Uh,
there.
yeah, I just want to be anonymous and I want to see how far it can go. I think it's really well written. I pat myself on the back way too much.
Okay. Now, how do you deal with criticism? That's something I always ask authors. How do you deal with criticism? Have you had any come your way yet?
No,
So you don't, so you haven't even gotten to that plateau. Well, as a person, how do you deal with criticism?
I think I do all right with it. I'm pretty thick skinned and I got pretty broad shoulders. So
Okay.
uh, it might make me think, oh, I wish I would have thought of that, but I can't change what is. I wanted to do a project. I did it. I knew
And,
sex sells. I wanted to make a little bit of change. So I thought I'm just going to do it.
right.
I set
So
my
so
mind.
if you don't mind disclosing, because I always wondered this. I know in my position when I wrote a book, it didn't cost me anything to write my book because I published it like you did, straight up. I did Amazon KDP, got my book out there. Somebody proofread it. They showed me a few little things that I did wrong. I fixed them. I sent it back. They were like, "It's nice." Then I published it. You know.
Same
So
here.
so when you did your book, was there any upfront cost or anything at all?
No, no upfront cost.
And see, I want that right there. That's what makes it so amazing to be alive in this generation right now and in these time periods. Because 30 years ago, if you wanted to write that book, you would have had to show your face somewhere.
Right. Absolutely.
You would have had to go see Larry Flint and try to get it in Hustler.
Right. Thanks, Larry.
Right. I mean, in all
Yeah.
honesty, you would have to, or either get him to sponsor or something, because he'd probably be the
Right.
only person I could think of that would probably do that. And
Right.
funny story is, I'm from a little small town called Lynchburg, Virginia, and
Okay.
a pastor of the church where I grew up, his name was Jerry Falwell. Him and Larry Flint, they butted heads, and
Oh, okay.
anyway, that's just a outside topic, but I mean, I like what technology is doing now, like how this interaction came about between us. Um,
Yes.
I'll be 100% honest. I want to say 100% that you seen one of my ads somewhere, correct?
You were on a podcast
Cast guest site.
Facebook post. Yes, guest site,
Okay.
right.
And you
And
probably
I private messaged you and said, hey,
right,
this is what I did. But I
right,
didn't, and then on the main page, I just put PMU.
right. And see, like that right there, I like that kind of interaction, and I'm putting this out there for future guests and other things, because you know it's so many people that reach out, and it's so many people that are afraid to reach out. But you obviously had to do some research somewhere. You probably had to click on the podcast, even if you didn't listen. You probably just looked to see what it was about or something, or you like the image. I don't know. What's your story on that part? What made you click on my podcast to be on there?
Well, I clicked on, I seen you were making your website, and I thought, well, this guy's got some, because I can't do hardly anything technical. I struggled to get this published. It's like a big accomplishment for me. I'm technically challenged,
Okay.
but it works out. I found you. I looked through your thing, and I thought, well, I'm going to send him a message, see what he says.
Right.
And then whenever you have it done, and this is a complete cop podcast, then I'll find sneaky ways to share it too without it being associated to me.
Okay.
So,
Okay, so
yeah,
that'll work out pretty good. And I think that this was a good exchange because, like I said, I only actually have in my podcast range. Me and my cousin did an episode, and it was something adult themed. And those are things that I like. I like to mix it up because this is what you call a flat podcast. I do a generalization of everything. So one week it could be about this or that, and then you came with something that's a specialty.
yes,
And I'm letting you know that I really appreciate that because um it's hard for us to get these topics out without us because you know it's taboo. This right here is taboo. You know, people don't want to talk about this, but it goes on, you know. So the thing that I really like about this the most is like we were able to keep this conversation the whole time. This conversation didn't even go out of being PG-13 or anything,
that's
you know.
correct.
And it still sells to the point of that it's erotic, it's smut,
Yes,
smut, smut, smut.
yes,
Um,
yes, yes.
right. So
Historically correct.
smut. And that's a whole new genre right there. You may understand this when you do a podcast and things. You may right now have set up someone else to actually want to go do this now. They may go do one with John Quincy Adams or something, just anything, or George Washington. We're not going to say Thomas Jefferson because that would be a wild one. But, you know, so that has to make you proud that that you got out here and did
Right.
this. And it took a lot of gumption to actually, like, put yourself out there because you could have got rejected and you put it out there in a good form. And I'm the type of person like you left it in a nice form. So when I read it, I was like, she's professional about this. She made her pitch to me why I should have her on the show. And I read it and you got a response back in like a minute or two, or maybe the next morning, something like that. But I was impressed with what she did. So pat
Thank
yourself on
you.
the back on that one because um, it's hard with so many people having content to pick and choose what you want, but you presented it. Your pitch was so good, and you may want to go into advertising as an extra job down the road. Your pitch was so good that I was like, man, I need to have this on here, you know.
Good. I'm
And,
glad.
and whoever the other person was I was reading, I just swiped over them and just got rid of them. I stopped that conversation, you know. And nothing to take away from any other guests in the future, but we want to have,
That's awesome.
yeah, we want to have great topics. So here's the thing on my show. I have something that I have to ask you.
Okay.
I ask every person um, a hidden talent or a secret. There was a rapper in New York City. He does good numbers on Spotify and all this other stuff, rapping about whatever's going on in the world. This kid can take in a Rubik's cube and he can completely fix it in 30 to 40 seconds. And I always do the same little stick about I don't know what he's doing with that brain power, but I wish I had that kind of brain power to solve something. So, what is a secret about you or a hidden talent that no one knows?
That no one knows.
Yeah, that nobody knows. Like, do you sing in the shower? Do you eat beets? Do you like? I hate beets. Do you like to eat black olives with peanut butter or something crazy? Well, that's not crazy, but that's just not my taste.
I take I take paintings that I find garage sales and junk stores that only cost $5 that are really old and faded and 1970 themed, and I bring them home and I paint them with glitter and I refurbish the frames
And
and
please tell me you resell them.
no, I hang them around my house.
You don't
I
resell them?
make no, I make beautiful, beautiful art with glitter glue. That's my talent.
So let's do this. So we'll spin that around. So it's kind of like a con artist deal. You get the original painting, and you just exercise. You do a remix on it, right?
Well, a lot of them are like cardboard and oh, my thumb's on the thing. Sorry. A lot
Like,
of them are cardboard
uh-huh.
and I just paint them and put glitter glue all over them and make them beautiful.
Okay.
I could show you one. Do you edit this before
Yes.
you
I'll.
release?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll definitely will take out the ending right there. Oh wow, that
Can you
is
see?
beautiful. Yeah, that's beautiful.
And it was just real old and faded. And so that's what I do. That's my secret talent.
Okay, that's an amazing talent right there. If you want me to edit that out, that's fine. But I can tell the audience. Basically, everybody knows we use Zoom. Basically, what happened here is she took a painting and she added element to it. It's almost like a Disney type deal. It's like that she took the old Disney from the 1950s or 60s, put the Technicolor to it, and then threw some Jesus Superstar on there. You know, something bright and sparkly, and got that painting some life to it. Does that sound about
Right.
right?
That's right. That's what I do. I'm always looking for, but I just got this house in Georgia and I'm working on it. So I need artwork for the walls.
Okay.
And it's a very inexpensive way. I got that original painting for $2 at a junk store because it was real faded. And
Uh-huh.
then I bought all that glitter glue and I just started glitter glue painting it and I absolutely love it.
Okay, and that's amazing. And like I said, like on the show, you know, like what you told us now, um, in the future, someone may go do that now. Like someone may take your idea and go make $1 million.
And be happy about it, you know. I just love it and it's recycling, it's refurbishing, it's giving new life to something old and then treasuring it for the rest of my life. So maybe if I get the whole house done, I would consider selling a couple, but or if I became super famous and everybody wanted some of my glitter art.
Okay. All right, Elizabeth Emerson, I would like to thank you for being on West Virginia and Commonplace. This
Thank
is
you.
this is a special episode because I don't actually have to let you do a shout out because you can't shout out anybody because you're a pen name. So, um,
Yes.
the shout out I think we could give is to Doc Holliday, Big Nose Kate.
Yes, Doc Holliday. He was a murderer, he was a gambler. In all the girls' eyes, he was like, just dreamy. But the reality was is he was a rough and tumble guy and not the kind of guy you wanted to come across in a dark alley. And she was hip to it. The second she decided she didn't want to be a prostitute anymore, she wanted to be a doctor's wife. It was she was a rough and tumble woman, and she just took care of business. And I really think everybody's going to enjoy that story if they read it.
Okay, and
So
once
I
again, plug
appreciate
your
you.
book one
Thank
more
you
time,
very
please.
much.
Definitely let everybody know the name of
Okay,
your book.
the title of my book is Doc Holliday Curled My Toes, written by Elizabeth Emmerson
On Amazon.
on Amazon.
And,
Yes, sir.
and what's
Daily
the email
Beats.
address that they can reach you at again?
Emerson History Nut at yahoo.com. EMMERSONHISTORYNUT at yahoo.com.
Okay, that's awesome. And once again, I want to thank you for being a guest. And in
Okay,
the
I want to
future,
thank you too.
if you decide to write something else that's in this field, we definitely need to do another interview for it. Okay.